welcome to episode 3 of Do the Best Work of Your Life. Today we're going to be talking about recruiting and sealing the deal, getting your best candidates to say yes to the role. So if you missed episode 1, we talked about the employee life cycle. In episode 2, we talked about attracting the best talent. Now, today we're going to focus on recruiting the best talents, getting them to say yes and sealing the deal. As always, I'm joined by Zoe and Ollie, and if it's the first time you're joining us, I'll let them introduce themselves. Zoe.
Hi, I'm Zoe Wilson, Director of Rethink HR. We help companies of all sizes and sectors to select HR technology and to implement and roll out their technology.
Ollie.
Hi, I'm Ollie Quayle from the Access Group. I'm an AI evangelist, but also running the technology and platform at the Access Group.
And for those of you who don't know the Access Group, we're one of the UK's largest business software providers. We're here representing the Access People division, and we offer the entire breadth of solutions from HR and payroll through learning platforms and content, as well as employee benefits, AI and analytics, and so much more. And we work with businesses of all sizes, small businesses all the way through to much larger organisations. But let's get into it. So we're very much going to focus on recruit, sealing the deal, getting the best candidates. So let's talk through what some of the challenges are for recruiters in the industry right now. One of them's got to be volume, right? So the number of candidates out there has changed.
Absolutely. And you have people, they're not self-selecting themselves out. If they want to join your business, they may well be applying for things that they know in their hearts they're not quite a right match for. But it does mean that you see huge volumes in certain sectors for certain roles as well. So being able to deal with them appropriately and sift out all of the really good talent, especially when these days not everybody has got the historic experience of the role that you're recruiting for. Mm-hmm. It might be that you're just looking for the skills rather than the past experience, and being able to kind of draw those skills out of people's CVs, albeit in different kind of guises and different formats. It's quite hard to do as a human, sifting through electronic, or whether you print them out still, it's just a really hard thing to do. So the technology really comes into its own when you've got huge volumes.
So Ollie, can you bring that to life a little bit, and how the technology can help getting through those volumes and really sifting out the quality?
Yeah, because the thing is, as we've said in previous sessions, that AI doesn't have to sleep. It doesn't wake up with having had a bad day or a bit tired.
Just roll its eyes at the thousands of applications that come in.
And the AI doesn't care that it's drowning in the admin. And you can give it some really simple instruction, really simple and easy to use. Again, you don't have to be a technology expert. The whole point of AI now is it's natural language. And because it's great at natural language, it can understand natural language, extract it and compare it in record time. So the beauty of this is, as much as people might feel burnt out having to constantly be checking things, it's almost done in a nanosecond that it can take what you're looking for, compare it to hundreds of CVs at the same time, and really give you that, if you imagine your normal distribution of candidates that are coming in, the broader and the more you can apply this to, the better chances you've got of being able to get the right candidate.
And by having a diverse spectrum.
That's a great point. Great, but and diverse as well, right? Yeah. Because that volume allows you to improve your diversity selection as well.
So from a recruiter's perspective, thinking about AI as having an assistant that would do all of that legwork.
Exactly, and we call it a co-pilot for a reason. It's not going to pilot it for you. It's not going to tell you it could do, but you don't. You decide what candidate you're looking for, what skills or role you're looking for. As soon as you say, go do that for me, and take every CV that you've got and run and tell me, you're still choosing, but it's doing all of the legwork for you.
Okay, that makes sense. So super attractive for recruiters who don't have that sort of technology, to free up loads of time, right? To then really focus on what I think is one of the next big challenges for recruiters, which is the expectations from the candidates and that multi-generational piece. I know we touched on it in previous episodes, but candidates are really, unforgiving, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they need speed and accuracy. They're quite often applying for multiple jobs, and actually if you lose contact with them, there can sometimes forget they've even applied to your business or for your role. So you could be missing out on some really good talent. So I think from the end user perspective, I think that constant engagement in some way, shape or form. How's the process progressing? What timescales are you working to? And I think as we touched on in the last one, actually, if you're rejected, having a reason for why you're rejected and what you might need to improve on, or a suggestion that you might be right for another role, and do you want to enter our talent pool?
So a positive experience, even if you're an unsuccessful candidate.
Because you might be a future successful hire.
What role can tech play in that experience?
You know, I know the lockdown was terrible for a lot of people, but it kind of, we had that jump to where virtual was suddenly mainstream.
Yeah.
And if you now extract, so if you don't have to be in the room chatting to the person, you don't even have to be sort of synchronously, you could be sending videos about stuff as well. So you've now got a much better ability to see that person in a time that suits them, in a place, i.e. their home, that suits them. And what it can do is it can really shorten the buffer between each of those steps. So you can really condense that down. I think that makes a massive difference, because just scheduling, and I know it doesn't sound like a glamorous thing to talk about, and it's not, solving world peace, but it's trying to get two people to be at the same place at the same time when you're acting on behalf of, a business leader who might have to be doing that interview. That can burn people out, trying to just get two people to be together at one point in time. And tech is brilliant at marrying those time slots together. So by getting rid of that, you can focus on other things.
I remember how excited I was when I first saw technology, and it said, actually, you can pick the days, you can pick the times for interviews, you check that the hiring manager is available, and you give the candidate choice.
Right, and that's personalising is, we're not dictating to you that you must be in this place at this time. You're allowing that choice, and I think that also improves that candidate experience, right?
Yeah, and hopefully
you care
stops
about
dropout as well. You've got more chance of actually getting that person in front of you. Yes, it might be virtual, but they're not having to book a whole day or half day off work and feel uncomfortable about what they tell their current employer.
And presumably using communication tools such as Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp to communicate with candidates is mainstream now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, it's
So gone are the days where we had to wait for the letter.
Especially if it was for yesterday.
When they invited you for an interview the day before and it came in second class post. Yeah, I understand. So we've talked about some of the challenges, so the volume of candidates and how technology can help screen and get you to your shortlist much faster. We've talked about the importance of a really great candidate experience, even if you didn't get the job or you were unsuccessful, because you're going to leave with a great impression of that brand. What about keeping them in the process? That's key, right? Because there's a lot of ghosting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to ask questions and get quick responses, technology can help with that. Obviously, all social media and everything can help remind people of what the values are for the company, help prepare themselves well for what they're going to be doing in their interview processes, etc. But yeah, I think people have got expectations of what a good interview and what a good process would look like, and the speed of it as well. And people can just drop out and just never be in contact again.
Ghosting works both ways, right? I know a candidate may ghost the corporate or the company, but if you haven't given them any contact of any kind, for even for 2 days now, people might think, they're not interested. So again, technology allows you to create almost like a breadcrumb trail of continuous touch point to make sure that they stay in that process. Or if they are excluding themselves, at least know. Right? Yeah. At least know early on that where they are in that process.
Yeah, and I think technology does allow people to do that safely. It doesn't have to be a phone call to the recruiter to drop out or say you're not going to an interview. A lot of the times you can engage with the technology and see at what stage of the process you're in. And you can go in and withdraw. You can give reasons, or it will prompt you to try and give reasons, but you can just withdraw, and at least it's not wasting anybody's time.
So, and all of this is then freeing up the valuable time of the really stretched recruitment teams to focus on the best candidates and their stakeholders, right? Because they've got to wear two hats. So they're dealing with the candidates, making sure that they're having a great experience. Let's talk a little bit about, looking inwardly within the organisation. So obviously a candidate on the shortlist is going to go through an interview process. So you touched on scheduling. Ollie, do you want to just kind of expand on that a little bit and how some of the technology can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just making sure that the right people are in at the right place at the right time, but it's also helping to manage that for them, because don't forget, recruiting isn't necessarily the day job of everybody who needs someone. So you can bring in standardization. You can make sure that you're always comparing oranges with oranges, right? That you're removing bias, the things that you can do to support the person who is effectively choosing the person, helping them to choose the right person, but making sure they're aware of any unconscious bias. I mean, we're not doing it on purpose. You don't know whether you see someone that you went to school with or whatever, and, or someone went to the same school as you. You don't realise that these things are affecting you.
Yeah.
And so you can schedule. That's the hardest one. A really quick thing: get two people together. When you're in that process, making sure that you get an outcome that means you compare oranges with oranges, and it's fair and equitable, and that it's there's no bias involved.
In terms of a hiring manager as well, you're completely right. It's sometimes quite outside of their comfort zone or their skill set to hire. And I think that's where learning management software really comes into its own as well, because actually to watch a short e-learning clip on unconscious bias and remind yourself of some of this, to get some tips on kind of do's and don'ts around the recruitment process.
And how to represent your brand.
Absolutely. You can feel a lot more confident as a hiring manager, and perhaps don't need the level of hand-holding, or you're reducing risk and you're supporting and enabling your hiring managers to do a good job.
On that, how technology can help. Just like you don't need that training until you know you've got the interview.
Yeah.
So you can bite-size that learning, serve it up at the right place at the right time, means it's fresh. What about this one? What about the the candidate's going to ask you about your policies, about your benefits, and these people aren't,
they haven't memorised
haven't memorised everything. And what AI is really great at doing is, you can have your co-pilot up, and you could be saying, they said, well, what is your policy on
DEI.
X, Y, Z, DEI, whatever, and you can ask, and it can tell you a concise answer so that you've got it instantly, rather than,
and you can send it to the candidate within nanoseconds.
In a nanosecond, rather than what normally happens is, I'll just have to check and I'll make sure someone emails that to you.
Yeah.
And in doing that...
Or sticks it in the post.
Second class man.
Nobody does that anymore, Bex. I hope.
But
Really?
again, I know it's unrealistic to expect every manager to know every policy, every procedure, every benefit, every fact about the company. But somehow, if they don't, during that process, again, it creates... it creates an opportunity for you to show that you care about this stuff, and you get them a rapid answer. So it could be a deal breaker for them, right?
So again, it's having that AI assistant,
right?
And as if you had an executive that can just run away and get it, but gets it in nanoseconds.
But get it to me when we're on the interview, or soon after, rather than 2 days later when it's they're out of context.
Understood. And what role can technology, and particularly AI, play, Ollie, in helping the hiring managers and the interviewers ask the right questions?
Yeah, and this is, again, the AI has become really good at understanding natural language, right? So you can ask the AI to take a certain tone, take certain content, and then convert that into a talk track for you. And again, it goes back to that thing, making sure that your language is inclusive, right? It can make sure you run that filter, make sure that you're not using acronyms or shorthand that the candidate
doesn't understand.
Well, they might know it in detail, but they don't happen to know your shorthand.
Yeah.
Right? And so especially when it's English not as a first language, right? Things like all your eggs in a basket, all of this, these colloquialisms that you slip into. You can use AI to help create, not robotize you, but create a script that you can follow the question, and making sure then that you're asking a question that can be understood, and then also be consistent across multiple candidates.
But also, I think if recruitment's not your area, I mean, I didn't ever specialise in recruitment. I'm an HR generalist by background, but even I would be checking and getting someone else to have a look at whether I've actually matched all the competencies in the questions that I'm writing. Are there any skills that I've left out? It's not just about the interview as well, is the process as a whole testing for exactly what I want and need, or 80% of what I want and need if I've got to develop. You can have a lot more confidence in that when you've actually got a little bit of a mix of the human support and advice alongside the initial content creation with technology. I think it's a really good blend, and I think it does help you feel like it's more of a robust, fair process supportive
for everyone.
Yeah.
So then, moving the needle along the journey a little bit. So we've got, we've talked about getting through the volume of candidates, the experience expected, the sort of speed to hire, particularly when things are changing within the organisation. When we get to the point where we want them to say yes, I always have that yes to the dress going through my head. We talked about this before, Zoe. Candidates can be quite good at negotiating these days.
Yeah, not back in my day. I don't think
they're not shy.
No, I would have grabbed it, and you used to feel like you couldn't ask about some of the benefits. Right. Even now, you'd expect to see the benefits right at the advert stage, or at least kind of with an interview pack or something that's coming out. But yeah, I think people know what they want. They've got visibility to job boards to do their own pay benchmarking, so they know what they feel they're after and what they're worth. They can drive some quite hard bargains, and sometimes if it's out of kilter with what you offer as an organisation, technology can help with things like like you've got requisition processes within a system. You can actually have offer processes as well. So if something's more, the holiday's more, the pay's more, something's outside of a tolerance, it can actually do those authorisations or rejections for you. It'll help you get back to candidates quicker and know what is and isn't acceptable.
And I think that's the point. As soon as you involve multiple people in different roles in an organisation, whether it's the budget and finance versus the hiring manager, as soon as you have multiple touch points, you're adding complexity, and that normally means
delays.
Yeah. Right? That's normally what happens. Whereas I think, again, if you have a unified system where you're putting everything in one place, that absolutely, just doing that makes that process in and of itself faster.
You've got an audit trail as well. Exactly. If ever it's challenged, if you get something, especially if it's quite tricky or around discrimination or something, you can see why you made that decision and when and by who. I think that piece is really important too.
Cool. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. So we're talking about, just to recap, sealing the deal, getting the candidates to say yes. We've talked about the challenges that recruiters face with the volume, the experience that's really important, accelerating the hiring, anonymising, removing unconscious bias, using technology to screen, using technology to schedule, using technology to stay in touch, and then some of the challenges that we might have with candidates that are negotiating hard. Good on them, I say. Good on them. I wish we'd learned that lesson when we were younger. So is there anything else that you think from a kind of a recruiter's perspective that we haven't covered that you'd want to?
I think we did touch it, but I do think all of that time that you've spent doing what was, ultimately thankless admin, right? By just that one call, that one human touch, that might be the thing that makes a difference for that candidate. You just, the humanizing, giving yourself that time so that you can humanize it. Mm-hmm. I just think that I can't overstate that enough, because I know that all the jobs that I've taken and loved and been at, it was that one call with one person that sealed the deal for me. That's what sealed the deal for me. And, in some of those instances, the admin was terrible and the process was terrible, but I had that. Now again, I think that we can afford to now automate that, so that is a beautiful process, but don't forget the human touch, because that's what seals the deal for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it is that multi-generational piece as well. So I think having an actual talent strategy, along with your attraction piece, it all needs to flow through. And I think it all needs to make sense and line up. You need to do it with purpose and think about all of the different blocks that will make sure that you don't lose candidates along the way. Yeah. You actually, when you make that hire, it is the right hire, and yes, they might negotiate, but you're going to get them through the door.
And they're excited to start.
And they're excited to start.
So I love that, even though we're a technology company and we're talking very much about helping HR and L&D professionals understand how to use technology, we shouldn't lose sight of that. The fact that human interaction is so important.
And I think it's why recruiters do what they do, and in the past why I've been put off doing that sort of role, because being bogged down in the admin, you want to get those people, the right people in the right roles, and actually that relationship and that success, that's the bit you want to celebrate. You want to be involved in that. That is the human piece and the bit that you go into the role for, I think.
Brilliant. So in our next episode, we're going to be talking about onboarding and all of the challenges that come with that. So thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to Zoe and Ollie again, and hopefully we'll see you in episode 4 next month. Thank you so much.